Hi, I'm Jerry Lipkin. At Valley National Bank, we believe consumers need help understanding the complex banking and financial issues affecting their lives. That's why we're proud to support the programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor. Insurance fraud costs New Jersey families $1,300 a year. New Jersey Council of County Colleges. Valley National Bank. JFK Medical Center. The New Jersey Association of Health Underwriters. New Jersey's Benefits Specialist. New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation. And by the New Jersey Re-Entry Corporation.
Welcome to State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato, coming to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio in beautiful Brick City, that's Newark, New Jersey. We're honored to have with us Briana Vannozzi, correspondent for NJTV News, with the great Mary Alice Williams. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. I'm happy to chat about this.
We're going to be talking about a great piece that you did in Camden in just a bit. But when did you know you wanted to be a broadcaster?
Oh, gosh. I mean, this is going to sound so silly, but when I watched All the President's Men for the first time, my senior year of high school,
Robert Redford,
I said, that's what I should be doing. I shouldn't just go for writing. I need to put my writing to a better use. And so that really started it for me.
And NJTV News is a great place to do it.
It is. It's a good family here.
Yeah, before we see this package, set it up. You go to Camden, you do a forum on the subject of?
So this is a very touchy subject in Camden. We're talking about jobs, but not just jobs. The money that's been poured into bringing jobs to Camden in the form of tax incentives through the state EDA, the Economic Development Authority. So there are, as you might guess, two very differing opinions on how this money should be spent and how it's already been spent.
Why don't you set it up?
Okay.
Tell everybody what they're going to say.
So this is a forum that we held with a group of panelists from all facets of the city, talking about why this money is being spent there and how we should expect to see it being used.
Let's go to the clip.
There's not a major city that doesn't give incentives in order to keep the businesses and to make that city thrive and to really start to build that city up. So you take that side of it, right? So everybody we get so focused on just, you know, hey, the jobs are coming in or these companies are coming in, but nobody looks at the effect that happens around those jobs and effects that the small businesses are being affected around.
Okay, right. As a small business owner, is there a ripple effect?
I'll start with this. In the 1980s, there was a term called trickle-down economics.
Sure.
And this sure sounds like a lot. I like it. One of the reasons why I'm so vociferous about this is because we have 8,000 people out of work, generations of poverty here. We have obscene amounts of money being spent here. It starts to become a moral question for me that we could spend $2 billion and essentially create 200 jobs within the reach of a Camden resident. The collateral benefits, absolutely.
So, Briana, here's the question. Using state dollars for the EDA to support Camden, controversial, right?
Yeah.
Was there any consensus on it?
No, other than the fact that Camden is a distressed city and it needs jobs. But the question that no one can really answer is, and what's been brought up is this whole idea that Camden is rising, is that a crafted narrative, or is it actually rising?
What do you mean crafted?
Meaning, is
like a
the
PR
state,
thing?
Exactly. Is this a move by the state to have this as a shining beacon of an example of how this Grow New Jersey program is working? Grow New Jersey came out of a measure back in 2013 so that it could lift the cap on how much the state can give to businesses to set up shop
And
here.
they wanted to have Camden, in many ways, be a test case, folks. So look, Camden has had struggling schools.
Yeah.
It had crime situation, drugs, considered by some, right, to be one of the most dangerous cities in the nation. But it is doing better in terms of the schools.
It is doing better. The
There are more
graduation
cops
rates,
on the street.
There are more cops on the street now. Now that's a whole other issue because that's where the county came in and took over the local police force. And again, that's another example of where we've seen President Obama came in to laud the department for how well they were doing. The schools, the graduation rates are up. There is measured, real, tangible progress in the city. And so on behalf of the city government and even the county government, they say, listen, if we don't have these incentives, how do you expect to get these anchors here? How do you expect to start anywhere? We can't keep looking to the past and blaming what happened in the past for where we're going to go now. We need to try this. Get these tenants here and let them grow careers for people. We're not going to just create jobs. We want to grow careers for people to change the landscape.
Briana, devil's advocate, someone says, wait, is it the state's role to use public money through the EDA?
Right.
I mean, there's a whole complicated process that they use, but the Economic Development Authority is charged. By the way, excuse my voice, allergies to all those who are suffering out there.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Is it the role of the state to incentivize a community that would otherwise have a very difficult time, if not impossible time, getting in private investment? Because if those state dollars come in, activity takes place, there's some economic development, and then private business comes in, isn't that the point? I'm not arguing for the state,
Sure.
but that is the point that many make.
It is.
That it wouldn't happen otherwise.
That it wouldn't happen otherwise, that these folks would go elsewhere where it's a lot cheaper to do business. There are really high costs that come with having a business in New Jersey, and that's not debatable. That's a fact. So what we see here is how are these businesses going to actually grow jobs within the city itself, because a lot of these need highly skilled laborers.
Is the labor force in Camden to support it?
It can be. There are apprenticeship programs. Holtec, for example, has an apprenticeship program where they have people going through, but these are primarily for construction jobs, which are not always permanent. So you have that issue to grapple with.
But it's, again, but it's better to have those jobs while you have them than not have them there at all.
That's the defense of the city, but you have folks like New Jersey Policy Perspective, which is a left-leaning think tank in Trenton, who's done a lot of number crunching on this.
What do they say?
And they say for the nearly $2 billion the state has spent since 2013, we're spending about $300,000 per job for Camden. So for them, the cost-benefit analysis, it still doesn't show that it's worth it.
Brandon, two things. One, Governor Christie's still there. He'll be there until January 2018. Yep. We'll have a new governor. Do you think a new governor could change the policies of the EDA so this would no longer be a policy to put public dollars into urban communities like this for development?
I don't think that it's unlikely that a new governor would do that. It doesn't behoove them. It doesn't behoove what's already being done in the state. To undo that and untangle what's there would be much more costly, much more devastating to the city. That is, whether even those who live anywhere on the outskirts of the downtown where a lot of this has been concentrated argue it's still needed. We still need something to help.
Briana, part of NJTV News operation, NJTV News does a terrific initiative called In Your Neighborhood.
Yeah.
Right, Camden was one, Trenton is another one, right? The argument is that this should matter, what's happening in Camden, to everyone else in the state, even if you live in a suburban or rural area. Make that case.
The difficult part there is for folks who are up in Sussex County who are also facing issues with transportation jobs and that, you know, they are disappointed. Why isn't more money flowing up that way? But for the folks in Camden, where we do have a really concentrated region of people, there is an effect that happens. We see it happening in Newark, where the mayor here, Ras Baraka, has this 2020 plan to bring
Newark in 2020.
Newark in 2020. You know, more jobs. The anchor tenants who are here will be hiring strictly from Newark city residents, and that then in turn has an effect on everyone around there. So that's the argument for Camden.
Real quick, when can everyone see NJTV News with Mary Alice Williams and the great news team?
You can watch it 6, 7:30, and 11 p.m. every weeknight.
Good stuff. Briana Vannozzi, correspondent with NJTV News with Mary Alice Williams. Check them out every night. Thank you so much for joining us.
Steve. Really
Appreciate
good
it.
to be on here.
Great partners to be with NJTV. Be right back. New Jersey is about to elect a new governor. This fall, I'll be sitting down with Democratic candidate Phil Murphy and Republican candidate Kim Guadagno. So what do you think the #1 challenge is facing New Jersey's next governor? Share your thoughts with me on Twitter @Steve Adubato. Do it now. Let your voice be heard, because democracy is not a spectator sport. State of Affairs is pleased to welcome our good friend Alfred Doblin, editorial page editor at The Record. Also check his stuff out on northjerseymedia.com. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
We are taping this in the summer of 2017. We have a huge race for governor, one of only 2 in the nation, New Jersey and Virginia. Why does it matter, Alfred?
Well, obviously, we need a governor, and there's a lot of dissatisfaction with the current governor. I mean, is it 15%, I think, is the latest approval rating? So there's an opportunity now, I think, for someone new to come in, and the first thing they need to say is, you know, I care about you. This is not a stepping stone to be somewhere else. And I think that's at least an interesting dynamic, that no one gets the feeling that Kim Guadagno wants to run for president, or that Phil Murphy wants to run for president, or wants to be Secretary of the Treasury in a couple of years if there's a change in the White House. So I think the first thing that's really important for both candidates and for voters is to have a sense that whoever you're going to elect as governor actually wants to be the governor completely for the next 4 years.
But Alfred, while in some cases people like yourself and others may argue it's a lot about Chris Christie or what happens beyond him, these candidates have to stand on their own, and both of them sat right where you are right now here on State of Affairs. And talked about specific issues. They have to decide and have to tell people how they're going to deal with the pension crisis, how they're going to deal with school funding, how they're going to deal with property taxes. Let's take the pension crisis. Tens of billions of dollars in debt. Kim Guadagno, Phil Murphy, where do they stand?
Well, when Guadagno met with our editorial board, you know, she was talking about wanting to, you know, get all the sides together and have this conversation. And, you know, and that's nice. You know, I like kumbaya. I'm sure you like kumbaya. I'm not sure, and this is true of both of them, that unless you do something radical, that was the thing that Assemblyman Chettarelli, you know, he was talking about, you know, we need to have this sort of three-tier system. You know, when new people come in, we'll have
new public employees come in. They have one deal. Those who have been there for a while
have some protection, and then those who have been there forever, you know, have their existing pension. Not an easy sell. Huge lift. Neither Guadagno or Murphy are talking about that. You know, Murphy pretty much is sort of saying, I want to leave everything the way it is. He's open to conversation, you know, to change it, but he doesn't want to make a radical change. Not on the pension. Not
Guadagno, bold?
No, neither are bold.
But does the pension need a bold solution? I mean, the state, listen, to be fair to the governor, Governor Christie, more money, state money into the public employee pension fund than many governors before him put together.
Correct.
Not nearly enough.
Right.
But where would the other money come from?
Well, that's the problem. I mean, because you have, you know, you have Murphy talking about, you know, pre-K expansion, and ultimately he wants free state school, community college free,
yes.
Which is great. I mean, New York State, Cuomo is doing actually more than that, but there aren't the revenues for that. And that would be the same thing with Guadagno, is that they haven't identified new revenue sources. They don't want to, no one wants to talk about, you know, well, we're going to institute all these other taxes to make this happen. So I don't see bold on the pension. Now, what may happen if, say, Murphy became governor, there might be more of a conversation. It's possible.
With public employees because they're supportive of him right now?
Yes, and that you'll have all these Democrats on the same page. Now, whether all these Democrats on the same page would be willing to tinker with what is their traditional base, also because many of them resent what they gave
in the 2011 deal?
Yeah.
Because what we're really talking about, I know we're into the weeds here, folks, but what we're talking about is a question of whether public employees would renegotiate, or the state would renegotiate public employee contracts. Murphy said here, no. It's off the table.
See, and I think, I mean, we endorsed Chettarelli. I think Chettarelli was the most honest and the most bold, and he couldn't win. So what is that?
I'm not even going to go there. So what that really means is those who put out really bold plans that call for sacrifice and pain, real potential solutions, harder politically. Let's talk property taxes. How much more can the state give to certain communities to deal with property taxes? This thing has been the #1 issue forever in the state. Murphy and Guadagno.
Well, I didn't hear a great, well, Guadagno's big idea is this circuit breaker. you know, and where if your property taxes rise to a certain percentage of what your income is, then there's some kind of there'll be some kind of kickback in terms of how your taxes.
Kickback. This is Jersey. Watch it.
Yeah. Well.
You mean illegal?
Yeah.
Something comes back to you.
Right. In the form of a diner voucher. It's a voucher.
Okay. Yeah. See, now you're going to go all Jersey on me, right?
Yeah.
And so, what about that?
How do you pay for it? I mean, and I don't understand how you pay for it. And I think, not to sound, and this would sound kind of Republican, the issue isn't, I think, to give taxpayers more money. It's to figure out how do they pay less. And the real underpinning, you know, to the property tax issue is school funding. And
Let's deal with that right now. Right now, as we're talking, there's literally, it's right before the state budget is supposed to be agreed upon. We don't even know if there's going to be a state budget. We pray that July 1st there is one, because if not, the government's going to shut down. State Senate President Steve Sweeney, the Assembly Speaker Vincent Prieto have a plan. They want to shift some of the money around to some of the communities that have been getting a shaft for a long time, take some money away from even some urban districts, Jersey City, Hoboken, and others, who many have argued are getting overfunded by the state, you say?
In theory, what they're saying isn't bad. We editorialized that it's a smart first step. No one knows what Governor Christie is going to do with this plan that came out first by press release, I think 6 p.m. or so on Thursday, announcement on Friday. I'm always wary about these 6 o'clock announcements, you know, because if you've got something happy to say, you just say it. But that noted, the plan is sort of funded for the first year. There's like $100 million that's coming from other sources that you can maneuver
what
money
about
in
the
the budget.
second year?
It's anybody's guess. So what happens? Because some of the concern with the School Reform Act, something, I'm missing another thing.
Doesn't matter.
Was that there was a portion of the way the funding was set up that was meant to be temporary. It was never meant to go on forever. And
so excuse me, Alfred, what happens if if the public school district gets attached to those state dollars and the next year it's not there?
Well, you got a problem. You got New Jersey, Steve. That's, you know, you'll have a formula that no longer works. So where will the money come from? I think it is absolutely essential that districts like a Hoboken that was once a special needs or so-called Abbott district.
Now there's a lot of development there.
They've got a lot of development. They don't need the same kind of funding. I think the fact that these aid is capped so that if your district now has 3,000 more students and another district has 1,000 fewer students, your aid should change. So that part of it needs to happen. But there's not a lot of process beyond
For the limited time we have left, the other issues that matter in this election for governor are?
Infrastructure. You know, someone's going to have to do something about the crumbling infrastructure. Certainly
New
here
Jersey
in
Transit as well?
Well, North Jersey Transit is terribly underfunded. It doesn't have real leadership. As a commuter who uses every system in this area, I think people need leadership, but they need real money. They need money.
And finally, also the healthcare situation. We don't really know what's going to happen in Washington. And New Jersey, as a state, is going to have to deal with what Washington does, particularly if people are thrown off the health insurance rolls, right?
Right. I think, though, both Guadagno and Murphy do not want to see any shrinkage of what we do in terms of Medicaid. So I would at least say that my impression of both of them is that they will, I think, try to protect what we do for New Jerseyans equally.
Alfred Doblin is the editorial page editor at The Record. Check him out also online at northjerseymedia.com. Alfred, thank you so much for putting things in perspective.
Thank you.
Come back again in the fall, and we'll try to make sense of what's really happening closer to the election. Stay with us. State of Affairs will be right back, right after this. New Jersey is about to elect a new governor. This fall, I'll be sitting down with Democratic candidate Phil Murphy and Republican candidate Kim Guadagno. So what do you think the #1 challenge is facing New Jersey's next governor? Share your thoughts with me on Twitter at Steve Adubato. Do it now. Let your voice be heard, because democracy is not a spectator sport. Dr. Stephen Rose is president of Passaic County Community College. Good to see you, Steve.
Good to see you.
How many community colleges are there?
We have 19 in New Jersey.
Yeah, we've had conversations before on our sister program, Caucus New Jersey, with you and some of the other presidents. One of the issues that keeps being talked about is this, quote, Guided Pathways Initiative.
Yep.
What is it, and why does it matter to our audience?
Well, why it matters is, probably when you and I were in college, we probably took too many credits. Associate degree is supposed to be 60 credits, a bachelor's degree, 120 credits. Typical associate's degree nationwide, students are getting 81 credits before they graduate.
What's the problem with that?
The problem is they're wasting time. You know, so what we're trying to do is get students into a pathway. And when you get in a pathway, you kind of put some guardrails on it so you don't stray too far from the pathway. So one of the things we're doing when students enter the college, we've developed this thing called meta majors. So you've got 6 or 7 meta majors. We're not asking them to choose from the 60 programs that we offer. We're saying choose from one of these 6. So let's say you know you want to do something in healthcare. So we have students, they choose the healthcare meta major. What we're doing is we're designing their first semester at the college. It doesn't matter what field of healthcare you want to go into, you're all going to take the same courses.
How does it impact people's experience in college and potentially what happens after?
Well, it's going to keep them more focused. You know, sure, you're still taking general ed courses, you're still getting a liberal education, you're still, you know, learning about all these things. But we want them to get focused. You know, the problem is a lot of these new careers that are out there. You know, if you don't go to healthcare, everybody says they know about being a nurse. But they don't know about all these things dealing with radiography, with X-ray. They don't understand this whole thing with medical records.
More possibilities?
Yeah, sure. And what we want to do in that first semester is get them to explore those possibilities. Get them to understand, hey, if you always wanted to be a nurse, but there's more to healthcare than being a nurse. And maybe they should learn about these things. So we take the first semester, whether you're in an engineering pathway or a STEM pathway or, you know, liberal arts, you want to transfer, just figure out what is out there. So maybe if they're a little more focused, you know, they'll get through quicker.
Steve, you see a significant difference in the population, the demographics of your student population, given the economic environment we're living in?
Yeah, well, you know, one of the things that's interesting about community colleges, we're counter-cyclical to the economy.
What does that mean?
So when the economy is really good, our enrollments tend to be a little softer and go down.
Really?
When the economy gets bad, our enrollments skyrocket.
Where is it now?
Right now, we're at a low point, a little lower than usual, because you can tell that the economy is doing okay. Because if people have jobs, if they feel secure in their jobs, they don't necessarily come back to us right now.
When will they come back?
Oh, when the economy starts, we're like a leading indicator of the economy.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can tell when the economy's going bad because people start to be a little less sure of what's going on, and they start coming back for retraining. You know, unfortunately, you know, it used to be you went to school, you graduated, you were 22 years old, you had all the education you needed for the rest of your life. That's not the way it is today. So many fields, you've got to stay up on things. I mean, if you're in a computer field, you know,
constantly changing.
And if it's the education, you could have a PhD in computer science.
Not enough.
It's not enough. You've got to keep going.
A high percentage of your students on the county community college level go on to a 4-year school, or they use that and they're ready to go out to the marketplace?
Both, absolutely. We know we serve multiple purposes. Students who want to transfer, that's still a way to get a very cost-effective education for the first 2 years. But we're doing a lot of things that don't even involve our credit programs.
Okay, real quick on public funding, government funding. The Trump administration and county community college, any message?
Not yet.
Does this election for governor matter to the county and community college community in terms of who's elected governor and what it would mean to your community?
Absolutely.
How so?
Some governors really get the idea of the fact that we have to broaden education. We need more people going to school. County colleges are a way of doing that. You know, we're 50 years old, basically, community colleges. Most of the people attending community colleges today are not people who ever would have gone to college before. Women, minorities, all these folks who get their start at community colleges. A governor believing in that can really help opening doors. We've got to keep our costs low. I mean, because
access.
That's it.
Because people can't go if they can't afford it.
Exactly.
They can't afford it, they don't go. All kinds of possibilities aren't there.
We are up to about $4,000 a year. Now, that sounds like a great bargain. You know, $4,000 a year to tuition and fees, and you can get an education. Great bargain compared to everything else. But if you don't have $4,000, that might as well be $40,000 or $400,000.
It's all relative.
You can't do it. So you need a governor who understands that the difference between a $3,000 a year tuition and a $4,000 a year tuition makes an incredible amount of difference.
30 seconds. How much you love your job, Steve Rose?
I love it.
Because?
Oh, you get to help people every day. You get to work with students. Being around a college, what better place is there to be than a college campus?
How many years have you been there?
I've been at the college 30 years now. Been
No.
president for 21. Yeah. Yep.
Changed dramatically?
Oh, when I got there were 2,000 students at the college. This year we'll enroll about 13,000.
13,000?
Yeah.
And once again, how many community colleges are there in the state?
19.
And been around how long? 50-ish years?
About 50, yep.
Dr. Stephen Rose is president of Passaic County Community College, and I want to thank you for joining us and putting things in perspective
My
about higher
pleasure.
ed. Okay. That's it for this edition of State of Affairs. We'll continue the conversation. Follow me on Twitter at Steve Adubato. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Steve.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Varus NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor, New Jersey Council of County Colleges, Valley National Bank, JFK Medical Center, the New Jersey Association of Health Underwriters, New Jersey Sharing Network, and by the New Jersey Reentry Corporation. Promotional support provided by New Jersey Monthly, the magazine of the Garden State, available at newsstands, and by Commerce Magazine.
The New Jersey Reentry Corporation is dedicated to helping those returning from prison to have a second chance. Providing addiction treatment, housing, legal services, and health care goes a long way to helping people achieve healthy sobriety and to secure a job. For a person to remain independent, self-sufficient, and healthy, a job is a necessity. We're in the business of transforming lives because we believe that everyone deserves a second chance.